it's Sammy from Sammy's Sweet Life, and today we are talking temperature blankets. Now this is a new to me concept, but this is not new in the crafty crochet world. Temperature blankets are, you keep track of the temperature every day and you add a line to a blanket or you add a patch to a blanket. We'll talk, like I'm doing mine as like a granny square type of patch. But there's lots of different ways you can construct the actual blanket. The gist of it is you keep track of your temperatures every day and then you add a line or a circle or whatever you're going to add to your blanket every single day. And a lot of people do these in chunks where they'll like work on it once a week or once a month and catch up with all their days. I am using W Underground or Wonderground. I don't know how to say it, but you can choose where you're getting your temperatures from, and it has all the historical data too. You can go back different years, so you don't have to necessarily use the current year. You can use like a special anniversary year or a year of your children's birth, all sorts of different sentimental things to you. I'm just doing 2025's temperatures because it's just something new that I'm trying and I want to just kind of keep track of it. And again, like I said in my Crochet Nook video I did recently, I am more of like a winter fall crafter. I live in Texas, it gets super freaking hot and I just don't crochet year round, generally speaking. It's just not something on my radar. I see a hair. It's just not something on my radar full time because I'm like, okay, it's like 105 outside. The last thing I want to do is have a bunch of like cozy yarn sitting on me. So it's just not something I do all year round. So it probably will be a case of I work on this until like spring sometime where it starts getting warm and then I pick it up again in the fall. That's typically how I crochet most years. I don't really typically crochet all year round, but for now, like this is totally my hobby. I ended up getting shingles only in my eyeball over Christmas break and I'm still kind of recovering from that. So I really dove into crocheting and it's just been a really good outlet that I can do as I'm dealing with fatigue. I'm dealing with my eye, still having a little bit of issues, healing from that, but it's a very like slow going process. So this is something I can do. It's low energy for me. I don't have to like focus my eyes super hardcore because a lot of times it's just like memorized stuff, you know, it's just kind of keeping my eye on it, but mostly I can just kind of do it mindlessly. So that was where this temperature blanket idea came from. I'm like totally hyper focused on crocheting again. I watched a video. I ended up seeing two crochet YouTubers that I really just totally fell in love with, and throughout this process they both had temperature blanket videos and I watched quite a few of the TL Yarn Crafts YouTube videos, and then this first one is my first one and I was like, oh my gosh, I am absolutely going to be making one of these. I cannot remember her YouTube name, but I will insert it here and I will also link to both of these creators. So I saw hers and she was still working on like a 2-year-old temperature blanket and she was just really talking through like how to set it up, steps of it, what to remember, and it really gave me the motivation, inspiration to be like, okay, I know I'm not going to be like keeping up with it every single day of the year. I can always catch up later. And I'm definitely one of those people that like plans out a bunch of projects. You'll see in my whips video, I've got a ton of like in progress things. I've got lots of big plans and I don't have really good follow through because I kind of jump from one thing to the other. I'm like very much like, oh, I'm kind of bored of this. I'm jumping to the next thing that I'm going to hyper focus on. So it definitely is something where I'm like, oh, you know, I may not finish this temperature blanket actually this year. I have been able to finish projects. I'm not saying I do that with every project, but like longer year-long projects, like I had a Peloton cross stitch, totally did not finish that. That was like 2 years ago. Totally have not finished that project. So I've got to like make it wrap into another year when I'm back to exercising. Right now I can't. I'm just like way too like basically chronic fatigued, but it's a temporary just because of my shingles issue. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh, that gives me hope that I won't be the only one that doesn't finish their blanket if I happen to not finish it this year. So with that in mind, I do have a hobby planner. This is for like gaming, all sorts of things. If you're a regular on this channel, you've seen this a bunch. I did a Godzilla vinyl on there. It's hard to see with the glare, but it is on there and I keep track of all my little hobbies and keep track of the projects I've finished, like finished scarf and used all hurricane yarn. These are like all the skeins I used up or the half pieces I used up, all the ones I've used up. I also keep track of like gaming notes for some of my games. I'm going to be getting Hello Kitty Island Adventure on my Switch tomorrow, which is so exciting. It's the 29th right now as of me filming this. Yeah. Hello Kitty Island Adventure comes out today, which is tomorrow. I'm very excited about that. I haven't crocheted or done anything so far today except do this video, but like keep track of things on here. And I have kept track of some of the names of things, like this Snuggle Season crochet beanie by MJ's Off the Hook Designs. So one of my crochet beanies is hers. Also, I'm doing a different one in my whips. So that's a bulky mosaic beanie. I'll link to those in the various videos, but I had set this up in the back here. So there's a confetti cluster granny square I'm working on. I did a heart garland. These are projects I finished. I haven't kept track of that list the greatest. Whereas at doll blankets, I was keeping track of what colors they wanted for everything. And then this is where I started my temperature blanket goodness. So here's my 2025 temperature blanket. I did end up ordering, gosh, 24, 25 colors. It was a lot of colors. And then I mocked up quite a few different patterns, and I don't know which one of these is which one of these, but I did mock up a bunch. I tried to write out some color scales, ended up like dividing out a little bit more. I found our average temperature a lot of the years in the 70s, so I wanted to make sure the colors in the 70s were colors I really, really liked. And so most of my blanket is pinks, teals, browns, a little bit of purples, a little bit of greens, and a little bit of orangey coral. So it's very mixed colors, but it's not done in like a typical, like your hot weather's gonna be red and orange and your cold weather's gonna be blue. It's not done like that at all. It's totally done in my colors. And I did a little bit of a mock up here. So here's the zippy hexagon I ended up going with. This is by Jane Snedden Peever. I don't know if I even said that right, but I used her pattern. I wrote out the little bit of stuff that I went with. And then I made my own key, and the color's not right. My ink does not like to do yellow if it hasn't been printed in a while. I didn't feel like wasting a few pieces of paper to get the yellow to print right, but here's my color combo. And then I went 20 and under, I used periwinkle. So that's another color I added in. So altogether I've got lots of colors. They're not showing up right. Like the yellow would make these, you know, green. These are oranges to corals to peach. These are my like dark aquas to light aquas. Ice blue is a very, very light pale aqua. Then I've got my pinks in there. And then these are my browns, mushroom, all the way to dark chocolate, amethyst raspberry, your like really cold freezing temperatures, and then 20 below is that periwinkle. I decided to separate it out because we did end up having some under 20-degree days, which is shocking. We had some freeze days. We also had a snow day, which was fun. So it's mostly, generally speaking, going to be in like this middle range here, like the pinks and aquas. With a touch of the other things. Right now we're in cold temperatures, but we have made it into some of these pink ones already. So yeah, we're in the middle of winter. It's mostly sticking here right now, and the color combo ends up looking really pretty. So what I have done, I set mine up with my color combos. I also, where did I put it? I also am using all three temperatures that you get. So you get a high for the day, a low for the day, and the average temperature, and I'm using all three. I was thinking I was going to use two, and I ended up using all three. I saw one like podcaster, it's a knitting crochet podcast, and I saw theirs and I was like, ooh, I really like having the multiple colors and patching it together. So that was my inspiration for how I wanted to do this. So I picked a few different designs. This one did not work at all with the yarn. My yarn was too bulky for the design, so it definitely like wrinkled up, but I thought that was really cute with the 3D thing. If I had thinner yarn, I think it would have worked a lot better, but I think that was cute. I was doing two colors at first. I also found a heart one that I thought was super cute, but then it looked like a smiley face, how the holes were. So there's like a hole here, a hole here, a hole, and then these ones line up, so it looked like smiley face. I asked my husband, I was like, hey, does that look like a smiling heart? And he's like, yeah, totally looks like it's smiling. I was like, okay, that's totally out. Like, not interested. I ended up finding a few other hexagons and liking the way that they looked, but it was two colors. This one, I don't know, I didn't love the way that this one was kind of like bowing out again, because like if you do so many like thicker stitches, it's gonna make the whole thing look a little bit wonky if the whole thing's not done like that. Like these are like flatter, thinner stitches, and then this part's all, you know, wrapped up and bubbly. I just didn't like the way it laid. And then I thought, you know, this one was a lot of work getting the design. It was really pretty, but it took a long time to like get the design. And then once it was all the same color, you can't really see how pretty that like sunburst shaped looks, and I thought it would just get like lost in the pattern. And then I found this one, it's the zippy granny square, and I thought this one was pretty. This one is by Jane. And then I saw her zippy hexagon. I was like, do I really want to go hexagon? And this one was in three colors. This was also three colors. One here, one right at the edge, one here, but I used 2 colors for that. And this is the one I ended up going with, the zippy hexagon. It was cute, it was small, because I'm gonna have 365 plus of these, like extras to make it even. It's a little bit smaller than some of these other ones. Let's see, size-wise, it's a little bit smaller. I like the way that the 3 colors worked into it. So what I did was I went low temperature, average temperature, high temperature. So I'll get mostly, you know, the higher temperatures are mostly going to be ending up, you know, in the mint orangey range, most likely for most of the year. And I have like temps going above 100. I thought these colors I'll use very sparingly. Ginger, orange, curry, sage, and leaf green. They're like the darker, more saturated colors, and they won't be used nearly as much, but we do get over 100 pretty regularly as a high temperature, so I'll get some use of those. Yeah, I ended up going with a zippy hexagon after, you know, mocking up quite a few different things, and there were a few, I may have tried other ones and just pulled them out. These were just the ones where I'm like, could I see myself using any of these? And ultimately, I finally went with zippy hexagon. Once I got this one stitched, I was like, yep, that's the one. It took me a good while to figure out which one I was going to use. So these are just mock-ups. I don't know if I'll actually use those for anything, but I finally got my zippy hexagon. So I make one of these for every day's temperatures. Light, I almost said light, medium, dark. It's low, average, high temperature. So 3 temperatures per day. And I really just loved the one where she made it on the podcast. I ended up looking at her Instagram and seeing what she did, and I liked hers, but I liked the little bit more decorative, like this little decorative spoke looking thing I thought was really fun. So I used the idea of using all 3 temperatures, came up with a design I really liked to stick with, and I have some of it done. So I'm doing a join as you go. So here's my wad of temperature blanket. I've got this is Red Heart Super Saver, and there is a risk because I ended up switching all of my yarns to these. And these are loops and threads. I got these at Michael's, but I don't know if it's the same company or what, because I have some Red Heart Super Saver with the exact same names. So I don't know if the white is going to be exactly the same when I go and order this loops and threads with white. So it may be a possibility I will have to rip all of these out because I only have 2 of these. And I don't know that that's going to be enough for the entire year. And I want the white to all look the same. So there's a serious possibility I may end up having to rip out this first one if I have to order a few more. Once I get this first one done, I'll know how many I need. So it's kind of a ways off, but I have had to frog this a couple of times already. I totally messed up a few times. So it has been a work in progress, but this is the thread I'm using. It's just loops and threads. It is acrylic, but I feel like it's nice and washable, durable, and it's just a decorative blanket. My kids will play with it. I'm doing rows of 16, and so my blanket will be 16 hexagons across by 24 hexagons up and down. And I chose that number because I wanted each month to have 2 rows. I wanted it to line up, and so that does leave some gaps. So let's look at this and I'll show you like where the gaps are going to be. So this is the top. This is January 1st all the way through the 16th. And you can see, I'll show you ends tucked in versus not tucked in because it does make a lot of ends. So this is all the way to the 16th. I've got the mauve color here. This is the pink. I've got lots of the raspberry is under freezing, so 32 and down. And then this one's like, what is this one? This one's up to 37 degrees. So we start getting a little bit warmer when you're moving into the brown colors. But yeah, I had quite a few frozen days and then almost frozen days with this color being in the middle. And I like how these worked up. These were my 2 like snowing and ice freeze days. It was under 20 degrees for those. So those were the only 2 frozen days I had. But I like the way this looked. I did a join as you go. It's the same join that she gave. It was a different video, but same process of joining. And I see like a little bit of yarn sticking through here and there. I'll have to make sure like nothing's sticking through. I can see that's going to bother me. I have one here too, like a little piece of yarn sticking through. I've got to make sure it goes to the back of the piece. But I like this. I'll do more edge work once I've done the whole thing. But the thing with this one, it's going to be, you know, at most 31 hexagons per month. And that leaves it being uneven on that second row. So I'm documenting it. I'm a little behind on this documenting. Where is it? But here, like, I planned out my 31 days. So 16 at the top, 15 at the bottom. It leaves one solid color square. So I thought what I would do is I would make just a solid color based on like whatever color is the most common color. So I will have to tally up things at the end of the month. And then I also am left with these like half hexagon pieces. She does have a tutorial, or somebody has a tutorial, where you just make half of a hexagon. I will also make those solid colors. So that'll be like the second solid color. Months like February, I'm gonna have a lot of those solid colors at the end of the row. This one I will just end up having one, and it will stick out the opposite way. It'll be like, I think here with a half hexagon here potentially. I have hair everywhere, like attracts hair. But I love the way these look. I love you get the little bit of edge work with the white, and the edge work between the layers is just enough color to separate it, and I love the way it looks. I'm just totally hooked with this. Yeah, that's it. So when I'm reaching the end of the row, I'll add the solid one or however many I have. And here's where I join the next one on. And then at the end of the row, I go back all the way across. So this was at the end of this row, I went all the way back to join, starting back with this one. I did all that edge work and then came back to start this, added onto it, and then we'll finish up the row at the end of the row. And then I'll add these solid half hexagons at the end when I'm like trimming out everything, finishing the edge work. But that's what it looks like. I love the color combo with the browns and the purples, a little bit of pink thrown in when it's a little bit warmer out. And so far it looks definitely wintry to me. I love the way it looks. And then on the back, I did end up tucking in ends. I tried to tuck as you go, so you can see some like wrap around in a circle, and then a lot of them hang out. So I get 3 ends, generally speaking, on each one, where some of them are already tucked in around, like this one's been tucked in around, this one's been tucked in around, the middle magic circle not tucked in, and then a couple of edge pieces not tucked in. I'll go weave in like 2 or 3 per square, and I was doing that like, you know, every so often I'll get a wild hair and tuck in ends. So I was doing that every once in a while, but I haven't done it in a while. I wanted you guys to see some of the back as well, but I'm really bad about tucking in the back pieces, so I'm not going to leave them all for the end. At least I've done like the first little bit. There you go. Got some ends to show you guys, and yeah, I just keep this kind of folded up in a tote. I've got all the yarn in a box, so I'll show you that big giant box. It's got all the rest of the yarn. And I did end up ordering a lot more yarn than I ended up using for my temperature blanket. The one on top is the yarn I'm using, and then the one on bottom is extras and colors I didn't end up using. And also, I think the pink and yellow I already had, but I've got quite a bit of yarn to use for other projects now too. And I did end up finishing the first 2 rows, which are all of the January squares, and my most common color was that raspberry purplish color. So I have a solid one on the end, which you'll see. There's just a solid one, and I think it turned out really nicely. I'm so excited about this project. Here is a good look at all of it. It is very long, so it's going to be a nice big cozy blanket that I can really wrap up into. And as we moved into February, I got my first aqua one, which I was so excited about. I was in the carpool lane working on this one, and I'm so glad to get into some of the aquas. I am going to show you guys real quick how I set my spreadsheet up, because that's how I'm keeping track of all of this. So I'm going to cut to a screen capture where I talk about that. It is going, so you're going to hear a little bit of noise in the background, but I really quick wanted to show you guys what my spreadsheet looked like. I just set this up and I don't know a way to like copy these pieces over, so I've been just copying and pasting directly from my chart. So here you can see all of my temperatures. I go up to 104 plus, and I feel like I won't have a ton of these top numbers. It'll mostly, you know, be like in the 90s all the way down to like 60s is my main range of colors for the year. Right now we're in the cold time. I was able to get a couple of the aqua ones, which you'll see, but I'll show you how I have it set up. Since I am doing 3 temps, I've got my high, my average, my low, and I did set these cells as dates so I can just kind of drag and carry the numbers down. You can see like you push a number, you can drag it and it will make the next dates, which is very helpful. I don't have to type in a bunch of dates. All this other stuff I am manually copying over, but I am keeping track of which ones I crochet And then also when I get them joined, because I don't necessarily join them all at the same time. And then because I have 16 in a row, I'm starting the rows as like little markers here. So there was row 1 until January 17th, and then I started row 2. It's time for me to go pick up my little girl, so the alarm went off. And then February started for row 3, and then I did tally things. I just used some paper in my hobby planner to tally for this little section. So I'll have 1 solid hexagon for January and then 1 half hexagon, and I was able to put those in. If I have it crocheted, I'll put done. And if I have it added, I X out for added. I also set up February. I marked where row 4 will start, and then I have the extras for February. I'll end up with 4 solid hexagons and 1 half hexagon in February, and possibly 2. I don't know if I'm going to end up with 1 hexagon on each side of the blanket. I haven't seen that far yet. So far I have 2 rows, and I started the 3rd row. I've got the first 2 here on the first row. So I've got 4 days to work on. It is Friday, so this is kind of my day to work on it. I'll probably catch up a little bit with these today and then possibly add these 4 on. And I'm so excited to see like the warmer temperatures, all of the pinks and teals, and I'm just very excited. These are my colors, so I'm hoping a lot of the blanket ends up looking like this. Also mixing in the corals and peach colors like in the 90s are going to be really pretty. And so, yeah, I just think it's so pretty so far. I love the purple and brown combo with just the touches of pink here and there, just a few little pink pieces. And then now it's starting to warm up a little bit. And yeah, this is going to be my jam, these warmer mid-year temperatures. So that is how my spreadsheet is set up. I just totally set this up by myself. I'm not having any special formulas where things carry over. I've seen other people be able to make it work, but it wouldn't carry over like my color bits. So I'll just go down the list and just copy and paste over the little bit from my color chart. And I need to figure out a way to freeze the frame because as I'm scrolling down, I'm having to scroll back up and collect these. And I need to be able to like freeze the pane here so this side will stay here at the top, and then I can scroll this side, but I haven't done that yet. I could do that in like Excel, but this is actually using Google, so it's a little bit different, and I have to figure that part out. But there you go. There is how my temperature blanket looks so far. I'm keeping up with it pretty decently, but like I said earlier, it will definitely not be kept up with. It definitely won't stay that caught up. I just pull colors out. I bring this happy planner tote. This I got at Go Wild. It's just a big giant happy planner tote. It's like felted material, and again, it tracks hair, so I have my hair everywhere. I'll pull out the colors for the day or a couple of days and work on a few at a time and keep this blanket in there. And I wanted something, one reason I didn't do like a line a day, I wanted something I could take with me. Like I can take a few skeins of yarn in that bag with a crochet hook and some scissors and knock out 1 or 2 of these as I'm watching my kid practice. I haven't been crocheting at practice very often since having shingles because I'm pretty tired, but that's something I totally can do when I get my energy back. I can just bring it with me and work on it as I go, and that way I can just, you know, make 1 or 2 at a time versus having to carry this with me later on in the process. This is going to end up being a lot bigger, and it's going to be cumbersome to carry with me, so I wanted it to be something I could work on in small pieces and be able to carry it with me during practices and competitions and all that kind of stuff. So there you go. There's my temperature blanket. I love the way it's turning out. I can't wait to see warmer weather where it starts weaving in a lot of teals and pinks and get just a touch of pink so far, but it's really pretty. I like the wintry vibes it has so far. And yeah, that's going to be it for my temperature blanket. I'm really happy with how it's looking, and I liked the zippy hexagon. It's really easy to work up. Now I have it kind of memorized, and I can't wait to keep working on it and getting some color variation, because right now it definitely does look wintry, and it'll start looking a little bit more springy and summery. There's another one of my hairs. I shed all the time. But there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed this look at my hexagon temperature blanket, and I will keep you guys updated on this as I go until I lose interest until next fall. So I'll do some updates until that point, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and let me know if you're a crocheter or a knitter, if you have ever done a temperature blanket. I would love to know, because this is my first time doing it. I never even had heard of this until now, so super excited to give it a try, and I really like how mine's turning out so far. Super excited about this project in particular. So yeah, I'd love to hear if you have done one. That is it for today. Have a great day, and I will catch you next time.